Amen. Thank you so much, Amy. It's
So
great that you guys are doing this and continuing it through the summer. It's, this whole situation has been so isolating. I know we in our family have felt that for sure. And so it's just really important right now to stay connected. And if this is the best we can do, then so be it. I would much, much rather be in the room with you all and be face to face and be able to see all of your faces. But this will do. This will do for now. And thank you, Margaret. I see you there on my little strip at the top. So thank you, Margaret, for putting me in touch and just inviting me to share. So I'm gonna share about an unexpected survival skill that we all need during a pandemic, and that is play. We've all kind of, found our way, hopefully by now, of how we're dealing with being at home more and kind of dealing with how much social distancing we're gonna do or not. And I think that more important than ever, parents have been spending a lot of time with their kids, and it's more important than ever that we are able to connect with them where they are. And that is definitely in a place of play and imagination and fun, and just being able to be their playmate in a time when their own playmates have just really not been as accessible and not been able to be a part of their everyday lives like they have been before. It's been a huge, huge loss for children and for families. Hopefully that's starting to get back to normal for some of you, but I know for some that may continue for some time. So let's just kind of spend some time today talking through what play is like in our families and how we can really start to use play in our families as a tool to build resilience when things are hard, and also just to improve our connection with one another. It's very powerful. God gave us play, and I believe that God is also playful and creative and definitely has a sense of humor because we were made in his image, right? And a lot of us, most of us, I hope, have a sense of humor and enjoy having fun and being silly. And it's such an important part of life. So today I want to kind of redefine play as not something that's frivolous or extra, but something that really is purposeful and has a lot of value in our everyday life. So first I wanted to ask you all to kind of think back in your own childhood, no matter how far back that might have been, and think about a play memory. So just think about something that you loved to play with, your favorite toys or your favorite game or imagination scenario. And just kind of think about that for a moment. And then maybe Amy, if a couple of people would like to share.
Sorry, I was muted. A lot of you have your cameras off. We don't care if you have messy hair or whatever, but it's hard. If you want to say something, make sure your video is on so I can see your hand go up. If you're in your PJs, that's okay too. Let me see. Does anyone have a childhood memory of play that came to mind you want to share? Nancy?
I can share. Okay.
Oh, we got you next, Lexi. Nancy, you're muted.
Okay. Well, my dad would, we had a thing about the states, a game, and we looked forward to it because we really didn't see him that often. But the fact that he was engaging with us and we were learning the geography in a fun way. And I'd also say that my one grandson, we had gone to Cracker Barrel, and I had asked him, what toy would you like? And he had this game. It reminded me of my childhood. It was the states, and he was very young actually. And of course, there's more to it, but we made a simple game of it. And but he learned so much, and he retained so much. But it was like fun playing with Grandma. And apparently, after we even left, he just really focused on that, and it was something that he viewed as being fun instead of like we're doing geography kind of thing. So that was something.
Okay, Lexi, I know you raised your hand. You want to share something too?
For me, it was like what we're doing right now is pool days. So we have a blow-up pool in the back, and we're just kind of outside playing and doing pool time together. So that was always my little thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fun. Let me go to the other screen, see if I see any hands up. Okay. Oh, go ahead. I never pronounce your name right. I always want to say Shauna, and I know that's right, not right.
Shauna is fine, but it's Shuna.
Shuna. Okay, sorry.
One of my best memory is we live in the countryside, so we have a big common, like tall grasses. So my sisters and I would go in the grass and we would make dolls from the grass and plait the hair and beat them and send to school, and just imagination. So that's something I always remember, being in the common, playing in the grass.
Very fun.
Yeah, thank you, ladies.
Okay.
It's always so fun to just think back on those memories and such kind of carefree times, you know, when you got to just kind of let go of everything and just be in the moment, and just be, you know, in that world of your own creation. So it's really, really cool to think back over that. And it's good for us to remember what that's like and how important that was for us as a child, how that was kind of our goal every day, was to be able to play, to have time to play. And so it helps us just take our child's perspective when it comes to play, to remember our own play memories. I personally, my favorite play memory, I played, if any of you remember, Fisher-Price Little People.
Mm-hmm.
And not the kind that they have today, but the kind that were the choking hazards. That was my favorite toy. So thankfully I survived. I apparently never put one in my mouth, thankfully. They would never allow children to play with those today, I don't think. But I loved just building a whole world full of little people and getting to play out different stories and scenarios with them. And so that's something that I love to think about. And my mom still has a closet full of all that stuff, so we still get it out sometimes at her house. Oh, dog. I have a puppy too, so you might hear her. So thinking through just what play is and, you know, how important it is for a child. There's a quote, and I put it on my handout: play is often talked about as if it were a relief from serious learning, but for children, play is serious learning. Play is really the work of childhood. And that's from one of my favorite people ever, Mr. Fred Rogers. And so, you know, just thinking through the importance of play for child development, for how it enhances all of their development, their cognitive and social and emotional. Play is an important part of all of those. So I put some benefits of play, and I won't read through all of those if you have the handout in front of you. But just thinking through, you know, how, like Shuna talked about, you know, playing through different scenarios and taking on different roles in life. It just gives children a chance to practice maybe being in charge. So if you have a child that loves being in charge and likes to make all the decisions and really has a need for more power and control in their lives, a lot of times they can experience that in a safe way and with appropriate boundaries through play, for instance. It helps children make sense of different emotions so they can pretend and play being scared or being sad or being excited about something. And because they are role playing, it gives them a safe distance from the actual scenario. So as therapists, a lot of times we are engaged in play with children because it's a way that they communicate with us. So it gives us really a good glimpse into their inner world, the stories that they share and the experiences that they communicate through play. Just helps us to kind of see what's really going on with them right now. And as parents, we can have that same experience with them when we kind of sit back and allow them to take the lead. And we'll walk through that in a second. I think right now it's really important to know that play is fun. And through that fun, it can really help relieve a lot of stress and anxiety. So there's been heightened anxiety and tension in all of our homes through this entire pandemic situation. And so play is something that when we engage in it as a family, our children can really experience, okay, even in the midst of this, even when things are hard, everything can still feel okay here. And we can all still be okay together. And so allowing our children to have those experiences with us right now is really helpful for them. That even when things are hard, we're still going to make the best of it, and we're still going to find ways to play and enjoy one another. So we're going to talk through 3 different things. So we're going to play first. We're going to play their way, meaning your child's way. And then we're going to play often. So we're going to talk about how making play a priority and really keeping it top of mind and being intentional about it can help our families realize some of these benefits from play. So I'm going to ask another question. So Amy, if you can moderate again, that would be great if people would like to share. Can you think of a time during the day, just a regular time that often just seems to be really difficult for your child? So a lot of times this can be bedtime or mealtime or getting ready to go out of the house. Does anyone have a time like that that's just kind of regularly difficult?
Yes. I think it's for us, it's like when I'm trying to cook dinner for the kids, like it seems to be the time they run wild the most, and like they're all over the place, and either they're screaming or the house gets trashed. So
Same time.
Somebody else put in the chat a difficult time of day is after school until bedtime.
Yeah, so there seems to be, often we have these just regular times that seem to come up very often that just is very difficult. Your child seems to be less cooperative during that time. Maybe if it's dinner time, maybe they're hungry. And so one thing that we can think about is how can we use play in these instances to kind of help prime them for the cooperation that we're hoping will happen. And so we can spend a little time in play with them to help prepare them for what is to come. There's a book, I have a whole stack of books here. I sent Amy a picture of them. But this book right here called Listen by Patty Whiffler is a book that I highly recommend, and it talks a lot about using play in this way. And it's called play listening is how they call it. And so when we can kind of play first with our children and say, okay, I'm going to spend just 2 to 3 minutes, 5 minutes connecting with you. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to have eye contact with you. We're going to, be silly. We're going to move. We're going to touch, all of those good things that our children just soak up from us. When we can give them a few minutes of that before we ask them to, okay, let's brush our teeth and put our shoes on, and, let's go entertain yourself, while I need to get this task taken care of. And so those are the little sprinkles of play where we can say, okay, if I do this first, we're going to invest in this time first and meet this need so that they are able to kind of move on and go along with the flow of the rest of the task that needs to happen there. So sometimes we kind of wait until our child is behaving well before we reward them with some playtime or with some time with us, or we think that everything needs to be in a good place, or the kitchen needs to be cleaned up and everything put away before we kind of sit down and play. And if you're really kind of organized and task focused and you like things a certain way, kind of like I am, then, you know, it can be difficult to kind of walk away from a dirty kitchen or just kind of sit down in the middle of a task and just spend some time being silly and being playful and, you know, really kind of seeing your child where they are in the moment. But if you can learn to do that and practice that with your child, it really makes a huge difference on just how the rest of your day will flow. And so thinking about, you know, what are those hard times and how can I use play? How can I engage with my child during a time like that to make it a bit easier? I like to say that play greases the wheels of cooperation. So when we're looking for cooperation, think play first, not coercion or yelling or bribes or threats. Think play, and give that a go. The second one is play their way. And so this is really about how can I engage with my child in a way that they feel like they're in charge and they're the ones showing me what is going on with them at the moment. If any of you have ever heard of the term special time, I know a lot of different writers and parenting experts out there will use that term special time to kind of define a time that we are sitting down with our child and just being with them. And so this can be extremely helpful. This is something that a play therapist will do with the child and also help parents learn to do with their child to help build relationship with them. And, you know, it really can help a child start to move through anxiety and stress and, you know, some of the behavior issues that you're seeing on a regular basis when you can kind of give them this dose of connection, you know, several times a week maybe. So this might look like taking 15 to 30 minutes or so, and you just say, okay, we're going to define this time just for me and you. And one-on-one, I know that's hard to do when you've got multiple kids, so you kind of have to schedule this and be really intentional about making it happen sometimes. But when you're able to sit down with that child one-on-one and you're not going to have any distractions, you're not going to have your phone with you or check the oven or anything like that. It's just going to be focused on your child completely for that period of time. Sometimes you can even set aside a small basket of different toys, depending on the age of your child, toys, games, or creative materials that you bring out just for this. And so this little box of toys is just for our special time together, and you get to choose what we're going to do. And so they can then, from that box, so it's a limited set of items, you don't have, you know, give them the whole house to choose from. They can then decide what they would like to play with and what they would like to do. And then really, you just kind of sit back and try to be as unintrusive as possible. And really just be curious about what they might choose to do, how they're going to use it, and just let them take the lead. And you're just going to follow along, almost like I like to say it's like a sportscaster. So you're just going to be noticing what they're choosing to do and maybe just describing every now and then, you know, oh, you're going to put the car on that track, or, you know, oh, that person's going to go into that room if you're playing with the dollhouse or something like that. Even with drawing, you can let them take the lead. So you can allow them to draw a picture, and they can either tell you how to draw the picture or tell you what to draw, or you can try to just follow along what they are drawing. And just this experience of being in charge and of you being attuned completely to what they're doing, just really engages them, and they just get so filled by that. And, you know, for us personally, I think that this is made all the much more easier when we have experienced this for ourselves. And sometimes we didn't experience that with our own parents or with our caregiver in our own lives, but how we can all experience this is through our relationship with God. We all can have the experience of being a child of God and being in His presence as the child, and Him being our Heavenly Father. We can really soak up His presence and His delight despite anything that's going on with us at the moment, all of our shortcomings or weaknesses. And when we have the experience of soaking that up, we are all the more able to turn and give that to our children. And I think that can be just so important for our children to experience that love and delight from us if we're able to provide that for them. And so that's just something that I know I've experienced in my own relationship with God. And when I am spending more time with Him and allowing Him to fill me in that way, then I am just so much more able to be in those spaces with my children in the same way, and to sit with them and feel that curiosity and wonder and delight. So this is not a time, the special time is not a time where we're going to be asking our kids a lot of questions or instructing them on something. This is not a time for teaching, but really just a time for being, and a time for just enjoying them right where they are, right in the developmental stage that they are, right with all of their quirks and, you know, all of the things that the immaturity that we might still see in them. You know, we're going to just sit with them where they are and really just accept and appreciate them in the stage that they're in right now. So that's something you can do just a few times a week. And it's really just a relationship builder, a connection builder between you and your child, or any caregiver and a child. And then lastly, we're going to say play often. So just like we can play first and we can sit down and have specific times of child-led play, we can also just sprinkle in different types of play throughout the day. And, you know, it's kind of hard for adults because we kind of lose that as we grow up. We become really responsible and we like to get things done. And, you know, we have to, because there's a lot on our plates. So kind of becoming more intentional and practicing sprinkling in some play and different types of play as well, you know, can really just enhance all of our days and just make things go a little bit more smoothly. And we just enjoy each other a lot more. And our children will definitely enjoy us more if they know that we might just pop out into spontaneous play. So I'm going to do something right now. It's called the mirror game. So I can't see all of you, unfortunately. I really wish I could see all of you, but if you will, just kind of copy me for a moment. So this is a game that you can do with your kids. It's very short, requires no materials, and you can just launch into this at any moment. So I'm going to stand up and go behind my chair here. So what I'm going to do is I will, whatever motion or facial expression that I am doing, you're all going to copy it, okay? So you're going to be my mirror. So let's see, and then I don't know, maybe Amy, would you like to be the actor after me, and we can copy you for a moment too?
Say that again. I'm copying you, or we're all copying you?
You can all copy me, and then maybe we can all copy you after that.
Sure.
Okay. So just do what I can do. I can see some of you, so I'm gonna know if you're doing this or not. All right, so. Okay, great. I saw you too.
Okay.
Yay. Okay, now let's copy Amy.
Okay.
Great, I love that. So that's something easy you can do with your kids, and they love copying you, but then they also really love it when you copy them. When they get to be in charge and be the actor, and they can make you do all kinds of silly stuff and look ridiculous. And it can be a fun way also, if you want it to be educational, is to practice different facial expressions for different emotions. And you can copy each other that way, just to familiarize you and your kids with, what does it look like when I'm angry? What does it look like when I'm sad? And so build in some emotion and information as well. So I always like to play that game with kids and teach parents that game, because it's so quick and simple, requires absolutely nothing. So I put on the handout, there's a list of different types of play. And so I wondered, which ones do you seem to observe in your kids the most often? And then also think about, which one are you more comfortable with? So what type of play does your child tend to do more of, or tend to enjoy more? And then which types of play do you seem to be more comfortable with, or are there some that you're really not as comfortable with? And because sometimes there can be a mismatch there that we can become aware of and work on with our child. I know, for me, like getting on the floor and doing something physical with my child was definitely not like my go-to natural thing. I learned to do that as a mom, and I found that I probably did a better job of this with my youngest than the others. But when we had like this little repertoire of games on the floor that we would play that were really simple, like we would do, kind of rock, holding each other's hands and rocking back and forth. And, she would sit on my lap, and we would act like she was in a roller coaster, and we would zoom around and fall backwards at the end. So those types of little, those are the types of little quick connecting things that you can do with your child before you cook dinner, or before you ask them, to get their shoes on and get in the car. Those little things that they include eye contact, they include touch, and they include movement, and it kind of meets that sensory need as well. And they just love it when you are the one that's engaged in that, because by far you are your child's favorite toy. So if you took everything else out of the house, they would still be happy just playing with you. They really, that's what they love. So we can use that to our advantage. They really love playing with us and want to be with us. So different types of play there. Let's see, a couple that I forgot to put on the list that I added in my notes is nurturing play. So play, where you're just scratching their back. One thing that I love to do is, if you've ever seen this, you can have kind of a rainstorm, thunderstorm come through on their back. So you can start with the clouds rolling in and the raindrops falling and the thunder and the lightning, and then at the end it dries up. You can dry their back up, and then you can draw a rainbow across it. Even, and he would be so embarrassed if I said this, but even my 13-year-old really loves that. And my oldest son probably would let me do it too if he was at home. But, you know, even at the older ages, that touch is so important. That nurturing touch can be so helpful for all of us, just to bring us all closer and help us feel better. And then the other thing was just silly play. You know, just sometimes some of us are better than this at others, because I think my husband would be the one that would be better at just spontaneous silliness. I kind of have to plan my silliness, which is really boring. But just being silly with one another, you know, and just being in the moment and spontaneous, that's definitely an important type of play as well. So lots of different ways to be playful. And, you know, each family is going to be unique. Each child is going to be unique. And so you get to kind of decide and test different things out and just think through what works best for our family. You know, what's really helpful for us when it comes to play. What types of play, what times of day do we need to incorporate play? And just how can I, as a mom, just be more aware of how play is happening in our house, and, you know, how I can be a part of the play and how we can make sure that these opportunities are happening. So I have a few specific examples. I gave you a couple of just different types of play, and then I included one in the handout called the feelings dance. That is really fun. This is, I would say, up to age, I don't know. I mean, sometimes, you know, we say, oh, this is only for little children, but older children a lot of times love these things too, because it's really good for them sometimes to be able to let go of being an older kid or a young teenager and just experience those fun parts of their childhood again. And so, you know, I think the feelings dance can be just for the whole family. So I just gave you some guidelines on how you could do something like that. And then all the benefits of it: connection, co-regulation. So that's where we're matching kind of our affects. And then sensory integration. So just having that experience of movement and, you know, the music and all of that. And then emotional intelligence. So really just kind of having a focused time that you really are just talking about feelings and in a fun way, and learning, you know, what does it look like when we're angry or sad, and, you know, what kind of dance would go with that? What kind of music would go with that? What does my body feel like when I'm having an emotion like that? And so doing these things at times when our children are feeling good and we're in a calm, regulated moment, then we have something we can go back to when things are hard, and, you know, when our emotions are getting big and out of whack. And I know, you know, that's something that Netta shared with you guys on your last session, is, you know, how to handle moments like that. Those moments happen. It's natural and normal for sure. They happen for all of us. So one way that kids can play imaginatively, that, you know, especially during the pandemic, but if you have a child that has had medical issues or, you know, any sort of health problem, or they've had a parent, caregiver, or grandparent with a health problem, you know, we're all familiar with kind of playing doctor. That is a way that our children can kind of deal with some of the feelings that might come up during a health situation like that, or just knowing that COVID-19 is out there right now, and the stress or anxiety or worries that might bring about. And so, you know, just thinking about how could I play doctor with my child? And we don't need a little doctor kit or anything like that. If you just have like cotton balls and lotion and Band-Aids, you know, you can have a lot of fun just letting them, you being the patient, which is great because a lot of times you can do that while you're just like laying down on the couch or the bed or something. So you can be the really sick patient while you rest for a minute and just let them take care of you. So that's also some good nurturing play. And, you know, it just gives them a chance to kind of experience and take control over and build mastery over those feelings of worry and concern, just related to any kind of health issues that may be coming up in the family. And then I put a little note for older kids because I know, you know, a lot of times when we think about play, we just think about our little ones because they are still in that mode of just playing spontaneously. But for older kids, we can help model for them that play is important throughout the lifespan. And so this is not something that we belittle or that we let go of at any certain point, but this is something that, you know, can help us relieve stress and anxiety and just enjoy each other more throughout life. And so we can do that as adults and as parents and caregivers ourselves, and then model that for our older kids, for them to continue to have those experiences. And playing with older children still looks like letting them take the lead and just trying not to be very intrusive, not asking a lot of questions, but just kind of holding space for them and allowing them to kind of share through, you know, just being with you and having time with you, whatever is going on in their world. And that's going to be, you know, more verbally than through play like it is when they're little. And so if you're wanting your kids to open up and to share what's going on in their lives, then setting up a time like that special time for them and just being open and having a listening ear is definitely a way to help that happen. So yeah, I guess that's about it for what I had to share. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, so if y'all have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat, and we'll go through them that way. That way we don't have to unmute everybody. I know one question that I had while they're typing or coming up with something is when you talked about like priming them for cooperation and preparing them for what's to come. So how do you set that up so that it's not like, hey, if you come do this, then we'll do this. So there's not a bribe. I just remember someone telling me when my kids were little, like, be careful with bribes because as they get older, the stakes get higher, you know? So how do you set that up and frame that so that does that make sense?
Yes. And I would say you don't have to explicitly share what the purpose of it is. And it's something that you'll practice over time. And so, you know, over time, when you first start doing this, it might feel kind of mechanical and, okay, I'm going to sit on the floor and we are going to play together for 5 minutes, you know, and then I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to transition them into, you know, what task we have at hand. But then over time, as you practice that, it will become more natural and more spontaneous. And you'll find those things that your child really gravitates towards. You know, like me sitting on the floor, you know, doing the back and forth and the roller coaster with my daughter. I mean, we would do that a lot of times before bedtime, you know, just sitting on the floor of her bedroom. And, you know, that was just purely by accident and by just spending time with her that we stumbled upon the fact, you know, that was helpful for her. And then she would ask, you know, let's do that. Let's do our games, our special games together when she was older and could ask for those things. And so, you know, just being willing to try things out and to make mistakes is a huge part of it. If you're a parent and you're not wanting to make mistakes, then no, we can't. We're not going to make it. So parenting is imperfect and that's okay.
Does anybody else have a question for Summer? You know, there's been a couple of comments in the chat about sort of great ideas and easy to implement. I think as mamas, it's when we walk away with another task, it can be overwhelming. But you gave us some really great tools for something quick, doesn't take planning, doesn't take, you know, a lot of spontaneity. So some great resources for that. So thank you.
You're welcome. And I think I also shared a handout about how to know when my child needs help.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, that's definitely a question I get asked a lot is, you know, what's normal, you know, growth and development, or, you know, what's normal behavior? How do I know when this has reached a problem that we really need support to help with? And so hopefully that will give you some information there about that.
Yes, that was really helpful. I saw that. I was reading through that yesterday. It's a great resource. Let me see. There's another question that came through in the chat. Okay, so what about structuring your children to play together so one isn't always in charge of the other? Oh, yeah. So one isn't always the one in charge. Yeah.
Yeah. So I, in my professional work, have the benefit of typically I'm with one child at a time, and that's great, right? That's not so difficult to, you know, connect with one child or to follow one child's lead. But as soon as you add another child into the mix, then it can get, you know, pretty difficult pretty quickly. You know, we've got all different ages of children. You know, they're boys and girls. They have different personalities and different needs. And so that can be very difficult. So with children, there is actually, I'll have to think of the name of the book that's specifically about siblings, but it's pretty well known. So you may have heard of it before. But one of the things that we can do is to not expect them to just figure everything out or to have the words to resolve a conflict, but to model that very intentionally with them and for them. And so a lot of times when we step in, it's to dole out the punishment or to separate. But instead we can kind of come in as, okay, let's try to figure out what's going on here. You know, let me hear what your perspective is. Let me hear what's going on with you, you know, and of course, if emotions are already way up here, then that's not something that we're going to be able to do until people have, all the kids and parents have had an opportunity to kind of calm down a little bit and bring things back to a level where we can have a conversation about it. But we can model, okay, well, what is something you could say if you're wanting to, you know, if you're wanting to use this toy instead of your brother? You know, how do you ask for that? And then give them the words and allow them to say it right there in the moment while you're there and with them and supporting them. Because just that practice and, you know, the experience of actually doing it, you know, just gives them the confidence that maybe the next time they can try it on their own. So we have to do a lot of modeling and really giving them a lot of words for how to handle situations like that.
Sorry, when you were talking about like play their way and the special time, you know, with the special toys, or and you alluded to this, and if you said it, if you can just repeat it, what do you do when you have multiple kids? All like, how do you juggle that and have special time with each of them?
Yeah, so that's definitely a challenge, and we have to kind of set the situation up, because a lot of times, you know, when we have multiple children, they can be, you know, really kind of triggered by being interrupted and, you know, by another sibling kind of taking their time and attention with mom or dad away from them. And so we want to be protective of that time for them. You know, if we say this is going to be time that's just for me and you, we really want to do our best to hold true to that, you know, and to set up a situation so that we can. And so that would be, you know, if there's another parent or caregiver in the home, or someone that comes into the home, even, you know, like a grandparent or something that comes over occasionally, using that as a time where they can care for the other children while you're spending, this 15 or 20 minutes with the one child specifically. And then, screen time is always an option. That's usually, kids are always happy to usually watch a TV show or do something like that. And so that might be a positive use of screen time, is just to create that situation where, okay, I'm going to have 20 minutes where they're going to go watch a show, and then I'm going to spend some one-on-one time with, one of my children. And so it really is something that we have to schedule. We usually can't be spontaneous with that because it does, require some planning and some thinking through how to make that happen.
I love too how you shared, because in my mind I was playing out what that would look like, when my kids were younger or whatever. And I for sure would have sat down and, if I had known this tool, I can envision myself sitting down, having the time, and then starting to ask questions and make everything a teachable moment. And there's times that they just don't need a teachable moment. They just need you to listen. And I just think that's a really good reminder, just to be and just be still and be quiet, which is, that's what we're supposed to do with the Lord. So it's a great comparison there. And what we can do for our children, what he does for us. So.
Amy, I think that's so important, because especially now with homeschooling and virtual schooling, those lines are blurred. Mm-hmm. I can see myself do the same thing, because it's like, okay, well, let's make this a teachable moment, because everything's a teachable moment, right? Including right now, it's summer. So it's like, okay, what should we be learning? What should we be working on right now? I've already told my kids, I'm like, school starts again this week. So I guess it's a reminder to also do this play as well as keep their skills up and prevent summer brain drain.
Yeah, Jessica, that's a great point. That is something that I see very often, with moms that homeschool all the time. And then we've all kind of had to step into that role lately. So it has been difficult, especially when you feel like, oh my goodness, I've been sitting one-on-one with my child for hours. And so it's good to remember that, this is a different type, like Amy was saying, this is a different way of being with your child. In a way that it may sometimes it feels really boring. Like sometimes you're sitting there like, oh my goodness, they're going to play with that again. Like they're going to do that again, because it's just really repetitive, or nothing's happening and you want to intervene and, make the story move forward. Or what if this person comes in and does this? You have all these great ideas for how this could be more interesting. So it's kind of hard sometimes, and it's a good practice for ourselves to kind of sit back and just let those things unfold, even though it may feel like nothing's happening at all. It's still very, very important, and it does have a purpose.
That's great. Thank you.